Hey guys, my name is Keshav Gopinath and today I'm going to be talking about the expansion of space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a good idea of how space is actually expanding. Now, hopefully you all know that the space or the universe itself is expanding and that the rate of expansion is constantly accelerating. And what I mean by that is that the universe is expanding at a faster and faster pace as time progresses. Now, when we talk about the expansion of space or the expansion of the universe, I like to visualize the early parts of the universe or the early universe itself as a deflated balloon. So let's just say this is a deflated balloon right here. And that every single celestial body present in the early universe is represented by sand grains stuck to the balloon using some sort of adhesive. Now, many textbooks might tell you to use ink blots or paint stains to represent celestial bodies, but there's actually a disadvantage in doing that, and then somehow, personally, I feel it doesn't give you the full essence of the idea of expansion, and I'll get to that in just a second. So when we talk about the expansion itself, let's just visualize that someone is blowing air into this balloon. So after a while, the balloon is gonna, swell up and grow much bigger. So let's just say the universe was about 2 million years old at that time. Let's just say the universe is, I don't know, 13 billion years old right now. So that's a huge time gap. That's a huge time gap. So that's about, let's just say this was, let's just say this was the universe at some point of time, and let's just say this is 13 billion years later. 13 billion years later. Can't really write properly. And a couple of things that you may or may not notice is that the distance between each and every sand grain present on the balloon would have, would have increased. So this sand grain right here would have moved away from this sand grain, and this sand grain right here would have moved from this sand grain, and every single sand grain on the balloon would have moved away from every other single sand grain present on the balloon right here. And what this means is that as space is expanding, each and every celestial body present in the universe is going to move away from every other celestial body present in the universe. And coming to the reason why I told you not to use ink stains, or why I told you not to use paint to represent a celestial body, is because if we use paint, what we would have noticed is that the size of each paint blot would have increased as the balloon is expanding. So if if that was the if that was a celestial body initially, it would have grown much bigger as time progressed and as the balloon expanded. And the reason this is wrong is because celestial bodies don't expand as the universe is expanding. And we can observe this day to day by looking at the sun itself. We don't see the sun bloating up, we don't see the earth bloating up, we don't see Mars, we don't see Venus, we don't see any planet in the solar system bloating up. And the same goes for every single celestial body present in the universe as well. Now, before I end this video, I'd like to touch upon a topic that may be a little bit hard to fathom, but it's the fact that the universe is expanding from every single point in space. Now, what I mean is, if we take it in reference with this balloon right here, let's just say this is a point in space. Okay, let me just use I'll use a paintbrush. Let's just say this is a point in space, and this is another point in space, and this is another point in space. What we would have noticed as time progressed is that every single point in space would have expanded in every single direction. And I'll go more in detail on this in the next video, but I'd like you to, think about it and try to reason it out yourself. So this point expands in every single direction, and this point in space expands into every single direction, and this point in space expands in every single direction, and the same goes for this point. And I hope I gave you a good idea of how space expands, and hopefully some of your doubts would have probably been cleared. And many textbooks would have suggested you to use paint blots, but I suggest you stick to this model because it gives you a much better idea, and in the long run, it's the idea that counts, it's not the marks. Thanks.